7:41, good morning, and welcome to the studio, Alan Cross.
Hello.
Listen to that. Say hello again. I just want to hear your voice in my headphones in real life.
Hi.
There he is. Now, as you can hear, and Alan, as you can see, we were expecting you. There is Project Runway happening with all the cameras and all the
Like,
on-air
what's
folks
wrong
here.
with you people? Seriously. I mean, midday guy's here hours before. Evening guy stayed overnight. Hasn't slept yet. Half the office is here.
Yeah.
Really? Don't you people have anything better to do?
Well, I ran into you. I had a fanboy moment with you on Thursday night. I was like, hi, Alan, I'm telling you, you can be on my radio show. How's it going? We're so excited. And you looked at me like, don't you have anything exciting going on around here?
Well, I feel really bad for not showing up earlier, but I've really had no business being in Victoria. I've always stopped in Vancouver. There's never been anything on the island, but now there's this transmission conference, which is why I'm here. I thought, why not pay a visit?
Yeah, so maybe tell us a little bit about the Transmission Live Festival.
Transmission is a series of global conferences where a whole bunch of different thinkers come together and talk about problems and issues and challenges facing the music industry. And there's only 150 people that are invited. And it's interesting because you have record company people, you have new media people, you have broadcasters, you have government people, you have managers and music publishers, and they're all coming together to talk about the future of music, all from different angles. And everybody has a different solution as to what needs to be done. Everybody knows that piracy is a big one, which is really hurting the industry in a lot of different ways. How do you handle it? How do you, for example, make it possible for a podcaster or a blogger or a person who sets up a website to actually stream music without getting absolutely hosed by copyright fees?
Right.
You know, that's a kind of a dull one, but everybody's coming at it from completely different angles, and there have been some raised voices, which has been interesting. And everybody realizes that the artists need to be paid, and everybody who holds the rights to certain things need to be compensated and protected. But at the same time, you can't stifle innovation. And the audience wants their music online. The audience wants their music when they want it, where they want it, and whatever device they happen to have. That's not going to stop. And music has come down in price so that it's pretty much free in so many different ways. That horse has left the barn. What are we going to do about it? Rock music tends to go in 12 and 13-year cycles, and you can go all the way back to the early 50s and find where things peak and then just, go off a cliff. So they peaked with Elvis. They began to peak with the Beatles in Woodstock. They began to peak with the punk scene in about 77. They began to peak with the grunge scene in the early 90s. Then it began to peak in the early part of this decade, where things, we had Strokes and Coldplay and the White Stripes and all these bands that reinvigorated rock. Because if you remember back to the late 90s, it was dire with, New Kids on the Block, not New Kids, what were they? NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears and all that garbage.
I thought it was great.
And then it got really good to around the summer of 2005 when we had albums from Green Day and Nine Inch Nails and Audioslave and U2 and Foo Fighters and Coldplay. It was just like a terrific period of time. And then it went off a cliff again because all the major acts and all the big records, they disappeared. All these acts went off and did, the album cycles reached their end, and these bands went into hibernation to write their next albums, and demographics dictated that pop music would come along. So when rock is on the ascendant, pop is on the descendant, and vice versa. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Okay,
yeah.
so after about 2005, pop began to get really, really big again, and rock began to decline. Now we're seeing people getting really tired of the pop, the Lady Gagas and the Black Eyed Peas,
Justin
and
Bieber's.
all that sort of stuff. They're enjoying a golden moment right now, because I think later on this year we're going to start seeing a lot of really big superstar releases. We're going to see, there's going to be a U2 record, there's going to be a Chili Peppers record, there's going to be a Coldplay record, there's going to be a couple of Green Day records, I think, this year, and that is going to shift public perception and consciousness back over to the rock side.
When you're sitting down and you're interviewing the biggest rock stars on the planet Earth, and
let me tell you a story. This is really good. A couple of years ago, I went to interview them Crooked Vultures.
Wow!
So I get a call. And I say, "Listen,
there you go.
We need you down at Josh Homme's studio in Burbank tomorrow." All right. So I get on a plane, fly through Phoenix, And his studio is called Pink Duck. So I wheel my suitcase around, and there's Dave Grohl and Josh Homme talking to somebody at very loud volume, drinking beer and having cigarettes. And, oh, hi, are you here for the interview? Great. So they usher me into the building, and there's this gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous recording studio that Josh owns. So they say, okay, set up in the control room, and we'll be in a moment to talk about the new album. So, okay, so there's a sort of a sectional couch there, and I'm setting up my gear, and John Paul Jones walks in. And he picks up, and he goes, hello, are you the man from Toronto? Yes. Oh, that's very nice. He picks up a bass that was sitting on a stand, and he walks around the room, thunk, 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 puts it down. Oh, can I get you a cup of tea? Yes, John, that would be great. All right, I'll be back in a moment. And I'm sitting there looking at my gear going, did I just send the bass player for Led Zeppelin out to get me a cup of tea?
That's amazing.
And he comes in with tea in a cup and saucer. He goes, I put a little bit of sugar. You didn't want lemon, did you? No, I think that's fine. Okay, we'll be back in a moment. So I finish setting up my stuff, and then all three guys come in. Josh sits on a control room chair like you're sitting here. And he's a big guy, and he starts spinning around, like a top. Dave Grohl comes in, takes a big dive, and lands face down on the section next to me, and immediately falls asleep. John rolls up a chair with a cup of tea and just sits there between the two of them. And then they close the door, and I look up from left to right, and I'm thinking, in this room, these men are responsible for the sales of 200 million records. No pressure.
Yeah, right.
So what you have to do in that particular case, you have a very limited amount of time to talk to these people, and you know that they have been talking to journalists all over the world, so they've had the same dumb questions asked of them over and over and over again. So you have to, first of all, immediately show them that you understand, you know who they are, you know what they're all about. Then you have to show that you're going to behave properly, that you're not going to do anything stupid, and that you're not going to try and be too familiar with them or too chummy or too confrontational. Once they realize that you know what you're talking about and that you know how you're supposed to behave, then they begin to relax a little bit and they become comfortable. And once an artist in any interview situation becomes truly comfortable, then they trust you. And when an artist in an interview situation trusts you, they will tell you anything. There was a case with Trent Reznor where he was telling me everything about his addiction issues in the early part of the decade. And I remember looking at him and thinking, dude, you do know this is a microphone and I am recording this, right? He had no problem with it.
Wow. Unbelievable. How are we doing as far as conducting an interview?
Am I behaving properly?
Yeah.
Do you trust me?
I do.
Are you going to tell me anything?
I want to hug you, man.
There you go.
If there is somebody listening right now and they have something that they just love as much as you love music, how do they translate that passion into their life's passion?
You just have to really want to do it. And if you find something that you can get paid at, that you love, you'll never have a job in your life. You will always just, wow, I get paid to do this? That is so cool. It's all about preparation. It's all about passion. And it's all about dumb luck. You have to be prepared when those moments of dumb luck come across you and to take advantage of it.
When you go and you interview the biggest rock stars in the world, when you have John Paul Jones bringing you tea, do you have a direction in your mind on how that interview is going to go?
No, because any interview can go in any direction at any time. What you have to try and do as the interviewer is keep it on the rails, if at all possible. For example, I once had a interview with Courtney Love.
This should be good. Sit back, everybody. This is going to be good.
So this was back in the late 90s when Courtney was at her most Courtney. She was nuts. So I had never talked to her before, and the interview was going to take place at the Chateau Marmont on Sunset Boulevard.
Lovely.
Oh, great. So how are we going to handle this? So I ended up at the hotel in a suite, and it is just absolute chaos. This was at the end of a 3-day press junket where journalists from all over the world were coming in to interview her. In between that, they were shooting a video for Celebrity Skin. So it was just absolute utter chaos. Eric Erlandson and Melissa Oftemar were there, and they're just sitting on a couch, rolling their eyes as Courtney runs around barefoot, screaming at production assistants and screaming into a phone and saying, "No, I'm not going to wear that. No, get me this. No, get me this designer." And then finally she sits down on the couch and says, "Okay, we better get this interview out of the way. What do you want?" Before I had gone, I went to the Tower Record store on Sunset, which is no longer there, sadly, and I bought a very rare Echo and the Bunnymen CD, an import. And I made sure that when I spread my stuff out on the table in front of us, that this CD was sticking out. Now, why would I do this? Well, because lore has it that Courtney Love lost her virginity to guitarist Will Sargent in about 1983 when she was visiting Liverpool.
Right.
The Bunnymen were just getting started. So she sits down, she looks at my papers, and she sees this Echo and the Bunnymen CD sticking out, and she goes, "What's that?" "Oh, I'm just a big Echo and the Bunnymen fan. I had never seen this one before. I think Will Sargent is one of the most underrated guitarists of the 80s.
And lovers.
And she goes, "Yeah, me too. Can I see this? Can I see it?" "Yeah, absolutely." So she picks it up, and she looks at it, and she starts talking about her time in Liverpool and how she believes that this band should be bigger than they are. And then she says, can I have the CD? He says, "Well, there's one more at Tower. I mean, I really want this one. It was kind of expensive." So she yells at a production assistant, "See this? Go buy me one." And then after that, it was okay.
Yeah.
And since then, she and I have kept in contact on peripheral levels when she can remember who I am. And to the point, this last summer, I'm in her dressing room alone. Okay, imagine this. This is after a show. It's about midnight. I'm alone in a dressing room with Courtney Love as she's taking off her clothes and makeup.
Oh, no.
And she became so completely comfortable. I mean, she's called me at home. She's so completely comfortable that the interview is going on, and she gets up and walks around the room, goes into the bathroom, is yelling answers to questions from what I suppose was the toilet.
If there was one dead rock star that you could just shake hands with, who would that be?
There would be two. I never got a chance to meet Kurt Cobain, and I would just like to have John Lennon on my resume.
This is The Zone. The Zone at 91.3.
Modern rock.